Hello guys, how you doing? I've just finished watching a film, a short Lovecraftian film, as ever, like a broken record, don't I? Short Lovecraftian film on YouTube, and this one was called The Captured Bird. The Captured Bird. Pardon me. It was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. There's something that happens at the end. There's some effects at the end that I found a little bit. They weren't that great, but apart from that, it was pretty good. The basic story of it is, or the base. I don't know. I'll normally just run it through you anyway, all the blooming details. So I'll give you all the details. How it goes is, it starts off. There's this sort of fountain area, a water fountain surrounded by sort of a paved area, and there's this couple sitting there rocking a baby, and then these two little girls come wandering around. I'm guessing it's their daughters, I don't know. And then the main bit of the story focuses on one of the girls. She starts drawing on the floor, on the paving, in chalk, just some chalk drawings on the paving. And it's a bit weird at this point because it sort of focuses in on the mum and dad again, or the parents of this baby, and they're sort of, it's weird because they're acting like she's not there. It's almost like they're completely ignoring her. So that's a little bit weird, straight from the off. But anyway, this little girl was doing some drawings in chalk on the pavement, as I said, and suddenly this like black sort of liquid, blacky reddy, I can't really tell, it sort of seeps out of the ground where she's drawing, and it starts bubbling a little bit, and she looks up, and this trail leads all the way down this path to this massive house. Well, not a house, well, a house, but it's this massive, like, creepy looking gothic castle stroke stately home thing. It's just massive, and it's a real good visual. It looks really impressive. Anyway, she goes through the big gates, and she goes up the steps, and she sees this like little bit of drain pipe, a bit of broken off drain pipe, rainwater pipe, and there's all these maggots like crawling out of it and falling out of it. So that's a little bit minging. She goes inside, and there's all these old sort of deer heads and skulls on the wall, which you find that a lot in this type of sort of horror. I don't know what the symbol. I don't know what the thing is there. There's a thread running through all these things. They have a lot of films. You get like the creepy characters like wearing like a deer's skull. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. I've noticed that in a lot of things. So there's some sort of symbolism going on there. Anyway, she wanders through the house, and suddenly she gets to this bit where there's like a beam going across one of the sort of doorways, and there's all these like tentacles come crawling out of this sort of beam in the ceiling, and they sort of wind their way down to her. And at the same time this is happening, the wall next to her, there's the same stuff as before, this tarry, gooey stuff. It starts running down the walls, and the tentacles come up to her, almost up to her face. And this is a bit weird. This is because when it gets closer to her face, one of the tentacles opens up into like a flower, and then it's almost like there's a shadow part. She's in sort of light, and the tentacles are coming from the shadow part. And as they reach the light, like I say, this flowering happens, and then suddenly it just turns into goo, and the flower melts, and then just turns back into tentacle, and it drips on the floor, partially onto her shoe, and it starts to like bubble, and almost like as if it's acid, you know, as if it's eating through the floor. And she reaches her hand out to touch one of these tentacles, and just before she can, it pulls back and retreats back into the ceiling, into the beam. And then she walks into this other room, and there's this pile of, not pile, but like a pool of like this same tarry black stuff on the floor. And out of it comes these creatures, these black sort of hovering creatures. They're sort of like, they're a bit weird because they've got massive long fingers and sort of hunched backs, and they're sort of really skinny legs that are sort of tucked up into their bodies, and they're hovering in the air. There's about 5 of them, I think. And this is what I was saying about earlier. The effects of these aren't, they look pretty good, but at times you can see their sort of long fingers wobbling. Like, you can just tell they're made of rubber, you know. So I'm not knocking it too much. It's just a little, it took me out of it, just a little bit, because you sort of notice it. But yeah, they hover up out the floor, look at her, and she doesn't look. This is a bit weird because she doesn't look bothered. She doesn't look bothered up until this point. And then one of them sort of stares her right in the face, opens its mouth in a sort of menacing way, and suddenly it bares its teeth, and its teeth turn into like maggots, like worms or something, and start wriggling around. And at that point, that's when she gets scared. She screams at the top of her voice. You don't hear it, but she runs backwards, turns around, runs back, and there's like a red curtain behind her, and she can't get through it. She can't find the opening, and she's panicking. And these creatures are sort of getting closer to her, getting nearer to her. They're closing in, and she does this thing where she puts her hands over her eyes. And I'm thinking that when she did that, I thought, well, she's going to take her hands away, poof, and they'll be gone. And they weren't, which is surprising. That surprised me. So she screams again, and then it cuts away from there. And I did this weird thing. You see the reflection of the girl screaming in this creature's like eyeball, and it does this weird thing. It's sort of, in the reflection of her face, it almost looks like her face like distorts, or something happens to it. It's a little bit creepy. I'm sorry, I think I overuse that flipping word, creepy. I'm a bit of a, I often repeat words. I haven't got I haven't got the largest vocabulary in the world, so I do apologise for me repeating my words. But yeah, I'm making this up as I go along, aren't I? Anyway, yeah, and then it cuts to these creatures coming out of a real rundown old conservatory, like with panes of glass missing in the ceiling, and it's real rotten, and they come hovering out, and then they go out into sort of the garden area, and the you know, this sort of this scenery, this trees, and there's like a sunset and grass, and as they're going out, it looks like all the plant life and all the trees and the leaves, as they get to it, all this stuff dies, and you hear all this noise of like people and things going on in sort of daily life, and then as they sort of descend into the distance, you hear sort of screams and you know, sort of almost like it turns red, sort of like an apocalyptic sort of view. So I'm guessing these creatures, you know, bring about the end of the world, and that's where it ends. It ends there, and the screen goes to red, and the credits come up, and that's the end of it. Hey, hold on a minute. Now wait, hold on a minute. I didn't spot that the first time I watched this. How weird is this? Listen to this. I've just looked at the credits closely, which I didn't do before. And it's obviously got, you know, writer, director, composer, DOP, whatever that is, editor, actor. And it get down to producers, and it's got Guillermo del Toro as one of the producers. How weird is that? I did not notice that the first time. Jeez. That's surprising. I just didn't spot that. I'm going to have to Google that now, find out what he actually had to do with it. Pardon me. Oh, guys, I tell you what, talking of Guillermo del Toro, I wish he, I know he can't because of the funding, but I wish he was given the green light to make the Mountains of Madness adaptation that he was going to do a few years ago. It all fell through though because of the because of the money he wanted. The money he needed to make it. It all fell through because I think he had a green light at one point. But that's, yeah. I don't know if you guys are aware of all that, but I would give my right arm to see what he could do with that. That would be fantastic. But yeah, Guillermo del Toro was a producer of this short film. That is very surprising. Yeah, but that is the end. That is where it ends. And yeah, I think it was pretty good. There was some real good little sort of cosmic horror traits in there, and I think it's worth a look. So if you all look for that on YouTube, you'll find it. I think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, I'm not going to go on for too long. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Go and check out The Captured Bird on YouTube. Yeah, thanks. I'll see you in the next video. Cheerio.